דוד, חבאים! מי אתה? הוליווד נוצרית, הם הולכים לחבק אותך ולעשות מישל של ישו. אוי ויי.
Mighty horses!
דוד!
Ready to take up!
I'm seeing a counter start going up, and every time I speak, little wavelengths are increasing.
All right, and it's working. Set it just like right here. Strange things are afoot in the backyard taco.
We just finished watching the David movie.
Yeah, we just finished watching David. You know, going into it, there's a threshold, right, where you can nitpick. If the movie is a certain degree of good,
yeah,
it becomes, you're just kind of dickish to nitpick it, right?
Yeah, you're just finding things to get mad at.
I'm sitting down, watching David. And opening scene, David shoulder checks a lion.
Oh yeah, okay. So we'll take you a little run by through of this. This movie starts off, David is being a shepherd to these sheep.
The sheep about to give birth.
But David becomes unconscious. He wakes up, goes over to where the lamb was giving birth, sees a bunch of like wool pieces, and is like, "Oh no, I didn't save it." But he did.
And it gives birth in this process. It gets birth. Up and the baby comes right out.
Yep.
Fully ambulatory, full vision,
has
full
hair,
hearing.
has like a full coat of fur, which
has a low taper fade.
David, being the kind soul that he is, sees that this lion is like stuck, even though the lion is actively like roaring at him, like, you know, and he just like leg presses the rock off of the lion.
You know, this is a trope, right? Mm-hmm. In animation especially. Oh, he loves nature. He's like this altruist. He's gonna free the lion.
Yeah.
First off, it's just kind of overdone and annoying. It's still kind of sugarcoating the story, and it's a biblical story, and biblical stories are violent. Like, that's not something you can get around.
Yeah, no.
People are always dying in horrible ways.
Yeah.
There's always some kind of war happening.
Somebody's getting circumcised.
It also sets up that he's like this animal friend when he's not in the rest of the movie.
No.
And it's also it's not consistent with Jewish doctrine and Jewish thought. In the Tanakh, it says very explicitly that the Jewish stance on the relationship between man and nature is that man is supposed to use nature to his own ends. Of course, you can still be like an environmentalist and a Jew. David owes nothing to this lion.
Especially after it literally just tried killing his sheep.
After it tried killing his sheep, which is the livelihood of his family and his town. Little Jewman tangent here, which creates an interesting disconnect between modern kosher law and the historical reality.
Yeah.
You know, if any of the viewers were curious, no, Jewman does not keep kosher. These are al pastor tacos. In kosher law, you are not supposed to mix meat and milk in the same dish.
Okay.
And if you're really orthodox, if you're really taking it seriously, dish means
like the same plate.
The plate. So you have your dairy plates and your meat plates, and you have to keep them separate. And if they mix, it's ruined. You got to throw it away. But the original verse specifically says, "You will not boil a lamb in its mother's milk."
Okay.
Which is a little more specific than mixing meat and dairy. It's like it's about kind of the
this
moral insult of the thing, right?
Yeah. By the way, for any of you who are unaware, I know I was when I walked into this. This movie's a musical, apparently.
Yeah, not just any musical. It's they got a Christian pop artist.
That's right. It's not only is a musical, it's worse. It's a religious musical.
I'll keep the music section pretty quick because I don't know much about music, and there's somebody who could talk about this more intelligently than me. From my layman's perspective, none of it seems very good. It's such drivel. I don't want to say slop because I feel like, I don't know, I think that has a more particular definition. It's just so warm. It's swimming in warm water. You don't think about anything when you hear it. It's just, you know, inspiration, feeling nice. David has hope, and it's a shame because the visuals that go along with the music are so often so good. You never get anything that matches up. You never get music that lives up to the visuals. I'll give them a little bit of credit. The voice actor for adult David is the musician who wrote all of it and sings all of it, so he doesn't need a lot of auto-tune. Young David, not as much. And of course, being a Christian pop artist, from the get-go, he's not very good. But they told him, as part of their lip service commitment to having the film be appealing to a wider Abrahamic audience and not just their strand of Christian, I guess they told him he couldn't mention Jesus at all. So he doesn't. And his singular shtick of songwriting is gone. And now he has to work around that and try to add some character that isn't just him talking about Jesus and the love of Jesus and everything. And he still subtly alludes to Jesus. You get some feeling of that. You get some sense that he's talking about that, but he can never say it. And so it's as you just kind of feel his lack of gimmick and his lack of talent when you can't mention Jesus, and it's really funny.
You suck! You are no talent!
It lives on the same plane as like that movie Wish, where it's this just extremely standard show tune European instrumentation and composition with the occasional like African-inspired wail. Since they throw in a few Hebrew words now and then into the music to try to give this general impression that they actually care, it's a little silly. And you tend to notice the discord, the dissonance between their occasional alluding dialogue and how the rest of it's composed.
Scene, by the way, it keeps cutting back and forth to David's house. There is like every stereotype of teenage boy. You have the fat dumb one. You have the like super serious oldest brother who is actually kind of important in this plot.
Yeah,
was
he has
really
like an arc.
Was he really that important to the story?
No.
They have like the stereotypical like emo, I don't want to do anything, Mom. He even has like the haircut.
Yeah.
If anybody remembers Jody from The Who, or Horton Hears a Who, like the really emo one, we can like put a picture up.
You know, My Chemical Romance listening, Moondaughter writing.
I can't come up with like a Jewish version of My Chemical Romance. And a prophet comes by. I really liked his character. He might have been my favorite character of that entire.
His voice actor is doing something. He was kind of shifting between Yiddish accent and Israeli accent.
Yeah.
It was a little strange. But apart from that,
yeah, I really liked his character. I really liked the character. I think the character designs of this movie were really good.
So I'm still not an artist, and my thoughts on the visuals still aren't that complex, but I do have a few interesting things to say. Because on the main, the visuals of this movie were really, really, really good. When the trailers were coming out and they advertised it super heavily, it got to everybody even though nobody watched it. People were saying that some of the shots look a little AI generated. I don't think they're wrong. I think some shots do look that way. They're a little too photoreal. There's a little too much kind of detailed stubble. The lighting is too ray tracy. I guess they just had like an Unreal Engine subscription and they were told to get the most out of it. But no AI was deployed in this film, unlike some other Angel Studios movies. It's by the South African studio, founded by the South African writer-directors, who I don't like, and we'll get to them. But whatever animators they brought on and modelers and visual artists do a really, really excellent job. Their only work before this was a kids show called like Jungle Beat.
I'm joking.
And I mean, it got some seasons in a movie. It was a decent success. It doesn't look that good. So this was their first real big budget, both barrels visual project. And they did an excellent job. I have one huge piece of credit to give the visual team. All of the Hebrew text on pottery and signage and woven gear and whatnot, all of the Hebrew text is period appropriate archaic Hebrew. They did their research. A bunch of the material culture objects as well are based off actual artifacts, or at the very least have been researched to have genuine grounding for why they look the way they do. The visual team did so well. It's the best researched part of this movie. It's the most accurate part of this movie. They did great. Of all the groups that worked on this movie, the visual team is the only group that can genuinely be proud of the work they've done. I hope they have great careers after this. They should be super proud of themselves.
We then, we cut back to David, the prophet is talking, and the prophet basically explains that King Saul, the current leader of Israel, has been, denounced by God. Like, he is no longer God's anointed one to, rule. He's picked somebody else, and he's picked David. And I think he pours oil over David's head. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure that's probably...
it's oil. He says a correct Hebrew prayer for the anointment, and then he pours oil over it. That is the anointing process.
Miraculously, for like no reason whatsoever, King Saul's guards just kind of like knock on his door.
And it turns out they're carrying him away because he's a musician, and they want him to play music. Angel Productions, they've been cranking shit out.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. They are
manufacturing. Like they must be doing something different. I haven't done a ton of research on Angel. I'll have to do that after we're done.
There are investigative journalists who actually like talk really in depth about this, and I'm not one of them. But all you really need to know about Angel Studios is that they're incredibly scummy bastards, and every major release they've had is suing them for one reason or another. The Chosen is doing this, the Mormon series about Jesus, live-action series. That movie about, like, child trafficking that got really big, but the guy who made it was actually, like, a fraud, the guy it's about. And now, actually, David is suing them, too. It has to do with their unique monetization model, because their whole brand is anti-Hollywood Christian filmmakers. They're Mormon-founded, they're based in Provo. And so much of how they get funding is through donations, through typical channels, and through this program they have called Paying It Forward. Paying It Forward seems to mean something different with each film. Sometimes it's just a donation. Other times it's paying for some specific part of a production or some particular thing Angel is doing. And with this movie, as we were told at the beginning with a special message, and at the end in a special message from director Phil Cunningham, that it was paying for seats in a movie theater for, like, impoverished kids who couldn't see movies. They didn't follow up on this. They did not actually give those tickets to poor people. Apparently there were some theaters that were bought out but just had nobody in them. Like, every seat was purchased but they were completely empty. So maybe, like, Angel Studios actually bought the seats, but they just couldn't be bothered to, like, actually find poor people. So they just, like, did that, I guess, as, like, a tax write-off or something. In David's case, actually, it wasn't an issue with Pay It Forward. It was an issue with marketing and licensing. Angel was using David in their marketing in ways they weren't entitled to. They were marketing it internationally in ways they weren't entitled to. So that's what's going on with David. And like I mentioned, there was a before and after special message from Phil Cunningham about, like, buying tickets for kids. I don't, like, research people. I'm not deep in the OPSEC, but I know someone who is.
What is up, Trandoshans? What is up, Trandoshans? I just got back from playing Ethno-Guesser and watching hate-monger compilations. Let me start you off with a statistic. Wookiees, despite making up a rounding error of the galactic population, they rip off 80% of arms. Really, it makes you think. We're talking about someone special today. Phil Cunningham, director of the David movie. Phil Cunningham, let's see here. Shit, my ring light. Fuck. We've got an interview here. Phil Cunningham grew up in Zimbabwe. Are you from Zimbabwe, Phil? You don't seem to be very African, Phil. I asked you, would you say that you're from Zimbabwe? Would you say you're Zimbabwean? You're not Zimbabwean, Phil. You're Rhodesian. Oh, man. Poor Phil. He says, I didn't get to see a movie in theaters till I was 14 years old. That's tough, Phil. That's hard. I really feel for you, Phil. Now, that would mean a lot to you. You, as a white man in an apartheid regime. How your life is so difficult. Animation, Phil. You say it has a power to cross cultural barriers. To cross gender barriers. to cross racial barriers. That's true. That's true, actually. You made a good point there. Animation's pretty cool. Tell me, Phil, are you a faith-driven investor? You're faith-driven. Do you, when you're about to invest, do you get on your knees and you say, God, please tell me what investment? You say, tell me my business choices. You should check out my Substack. You should check out my Substack about racial politics.
Yeah, it's enough of that. So Phil Cunningham, he's a special kind of character, not because of any of what was just mentioned. I mean, that's crazy as well. But Phil Cunningham is like archetypically this kind of anti-Hollywood Christian director, auteur. I know there's another writer-director for this movie. He didn't have as many interviews. He's just not as interesting a person, so I just didn't bother with him as much. Phil Cunningham, he ticks all the boxes. He's just this kind of character. He's had basically no career in mainstream Hollywood because he is this Christian director who thinks mainstream Hollywood has betrayed his kids, right? So what he does instead, he starts with a kids show because he's so focused on like how the children are being raised in Christian morals, right? That they're being indoctrinated by like the woke agenda or what have you. He and his other director, they've dabbled in the other things that are just so typical of this crowd. Like for example, and this is the hallmark. This is what they all do. He was involved with a Holocaust short, I think just as a producer, but that even makes it more egregious because he wasn't even a creative force on it. He just wanted his money in and his name on a Holocaust short. It's so rich. They always do this. They're Christian, right? They're evangelical Christian. The vision of their faith is that everybody in the world follows their beliefs. Like almost without fail, they all involve themselves with some kind of Holocaust project. The Holocaust has become just commoditized for this kind of crowd as lip service. It's just people who don't care, and so they use one of the world's greatest tragedies in all of its history as just this completely capitalized vector for really virtue signaling, genuinely for virtue signaling. It's why I really deeply do not like these people, because my demographic and the greatest tragedy to ever face my demographic is cheapened and is wielded by this kind of character to make themselves look good.
You know, he wakes up in the back of a cart, kind of like similar to Skyrim.
Stick some iron in your mouth and pull the trigger.
And he's looking around and he's seeing like everybody working. It's just like typical, market activities.
Very
like,
nice portrayal of Jerusalem.
Yeah,
Very nice period. Again, the visuals, great, wonderful, great job.
The writing. I'm kidding.
I dislike space. It is cold and empty.
Yeah, the writing is probably the worst part of this movie. The big plot flaws, and where it diverges from the source material in a non-productive way, I get to elsewhere. But just on a moment-to-moment basis, the writing sucks. The writing is really awful, especially the dialogue. It suffers from the Disney thing, it suffers from the mainstream animation thing, where it's a period setting that has really modern dialogue. The big offender, for some reason, is David's mom. She's saying things like, "You gave me a heart attack," or "deal with it." Like these modern pieces of slang that don't really belong. And the dialogue at large as well, when it's trying to be utilitarian, even when it's just trying to forward the plot, is weird, and it is stilted, and it is delivered badly, and it just sucks. It is just unfortunate. And at a larger scale, of course, the writing is also terrible. There are constantly just these weird flaws, these weird little issues in how things happen. People are always doing completely implausible things. Timelines are always so short. Later on in the movie, right, a bunch of people that David is caring for will get kidnapped by the Amalekites, and he has all of those people's husbands and fathers, and the husbands and fathers don't follow them because there needs to be a third act betrayal like in every other animated movie, and they needed to be all insulted by David existing, even though those are their wives and children, and they should probably go save them. Like, none of the characters act consistently, none of the characters can do anything reasonably. God will just intervene in situations. David will get hit with a spear, and the spear just bounces off his chest and he survives, and it's never really brought up again. Like, that God, as well, just has a lot of miracles in this movie that go unaddressed and aren't even necessarily biblical. It's all just terrible.
The king is having what we could assume are like headaches or migraines, or he's not feeling well in some sort. And he's asked musicians to come and play for him to like soothe him. And he's like being rushed into this. He like just got bathed because, you know, they didn't tell him what he was going to do. And we see it off screen, but we hear like collisions and we hear like fabric being ripped off. So it's safe to assume that they just like stripped like a 10-year-old boy. Yeah, then he goes and sings for the king, and then like everyone else joins in and they're singing. It's the Shalom song.
Yeah, it's the song where they say shalom a lot.
A lot.
Also, the king has a bunch of spears next to him, and it's nice they set this up because the Tanakh is very specific that that Saul throws a spear at David.
Yeah.
So they set up that the spears are within reach.
They are right there.
Yeah,
like
the Chekhov's bin of spears has been laid.
He can just, and he's got like 5 spears in his hand.
There were 13 bins of spears in this film. If you count more, comment below.
And then we get how David gets to the army. That
Yeah.
everybody's being levied. David needs to bring out their supplies that this household owes to the army.
Yeah.
And so David does that. And this is how we meet Goliath.
Apologies in advance about the audio quality of this next tangent. The lav mic I had hooked up turned out to be pretty crappy, and my phone was far enough away, all the audio it got was really echoey. So I've captioned the next parts, was a little more legible. The audio is very muffled. I've had to go in and edit it some. It's going to be a little rough, so sorry about that. So, the David and Goliath story, of course, very, very iconic, and with usually a pretty clear interpretation, a pretty clear angle of what it's supposed to be, that being a vindication of faith. David puts his life in the hands of God, and he comes out on top, right? He goes out without armor or any other weapon, and he wins. He's professing his faith to God this entire time, and is following God, and God giving him the strength. And while it's undeniable that God certainly is giving him some kind of strength, it's also kind of hiding David's own ego. It's a cover for his own ego, that he does kind of think he's all that, right? He takes Goliath's gear back to his house after he kills him and keeps it forevermore. But it is, you know, it's read that way by not only Christians, who are normally the only ones to read biblical Tanakh stories, as strictly stories of faith, but Jews view it that way too. There are a few ways to read the story, and personally, I'm very into history, as you'll probably figure out from the coming videos. But I think the text is really interesting from that angle, because the whole thing is not that implausible. The whole lead up to it, Goliath coming out, being a champion, doing taunts, extremely normal for this time period. It sort of resembles Greek legendary tellings. So you'll see, like in the Iliad, you'll see the same sort of thing. And that actually makes some sense, because it's thought the Philistines were Greek, right? Not really the modern sense of Greek, but like Mycenaean Greek. They were some of the sea peoples, possibly, who raided the whole of Canaan and Anatolia and Egypt during the Bronze Age collapse. And they settle in southern Canaan, and so now they're bringing some of that sort of Greek culture, into that region. So they're sort of fighting this battle like Mycenaean Greeks would have, starting out with a champion and only taking to the field with an army if nothing comes of the champion duel. So Goliath comes out, and how impressive Goliath is debatable. In the original text, he's not that cool. In the very original text, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says his height is actually closer to like 6'7", which is normal height for like not for an ordinary person of the time period, but for somebody with like a growth disorder, absolutely. And of course, no Israelite wants to fight him because he's big and he's built. He doesn't need to be 10 feet tall to look like more than a match for anybody among the Jews. The only real kind of mote of implausibility in this whole thing is David killing Goliath, but that isn't really even the case. So he comes out just with his sling. He wants to be as lightly equipped as possible, and he shoots his sling at Goliath, and it hits Goliath presumably in the helmet, which doesn't kill him. And it's kind of power scaling Goliath that he doesn't die, but the presumption is that he has a helmet on, so it blocks the impact a little bit. Goliath falls over, dazed from having been hit with this very, very powerful projectile, and David goes over and he kills him with his own sword. Simple as that. It's really very, very plausible. And that's great and all, right? That's sort of that's the historical, that's like the Maimonidean interpretation. It's how Maimonides would have seen it, right? Because, of course, a famous Jewish scholar in his own right, but also just on the side, like the best historian of his century. But then there's like the legendary Talmudic interpretation, which takes it right off the rails immediately. There is so much just absurd rabbinic commentary about how incredible Goliath is, about his lineage, about how crazy it was that David killed him, about all the ways God's miracles were involved, that the whole thing plays out. It plays out like fucking Baki. Of course, I remember the incident in perfect detail. We'd only heard rumors of the Philistine champion before. It was said he was huge, the strongest man alive, and he had a pagan idol engraved on his heart. He was responsible for capturing the Ark of the Covenant all those years ago. Goliath bore it with one arm. When we saw him on the field in his fighting stance, he looked over 6 cubits tall. But Goliath of Gath was no ordinary human. Standing on that field, he was more like a wild beast. But even his amazing power was no match for what came next. David explained he had fought beasts before and bested them hand to hand. A lion and a bear, he said. Perhaps you are unaware, but no bears are native to Judea. He would have traveled through Egypt and to the wastelands of Libya to battle such a thing. David, too, was no ordinary human. Saul offered him his armor and he refused. You must remember, this armor was the finest available at the time, though even it did not compare to Goliath's mail. When weighed after the battle, it measured exactly 120 tons. But David refused it, stepping out with only his staff and sling. He loaded his sling with 5 bullets. 5. Ordinarily, they would fall to the ground uselessly, but he shot them with such force. They melted and fused midair to one enormous and perfectly formed bullet. An incredible shot directly to the temple, a feat of accuracy no ordinary person could achieve. The shepherd's sling, you must know, is no ordinary weapon. Though simple, its effective range can exceed 40 cubits. Only a Parthian warbow has a longer reach. The best slingers propel it at 10 cubits a second. A sling bullet at that speed, and at the close distance David fired it, would penetrate the skull of a normal person, killing them instantly. But though dazed, Goliath survived the shot. Imagine a skull so strong it withstood that strike. It would have taken minutes to cross that field, but David ran it in seconds. Before Goliath could recover, his own sword, weighing tons, was held effortlessly at his throat. But when he looked at the child, he saw not only him, but an angel. Can you even imagine that? A child with such power, he can command angels. It took David a single blow to decapitate the giant. How can a boy defeat such a beast? You see, David and Goliath were of the same family line. Goliath's mother, Orpah, was sister to David's great-grandmother, the famous Ruth. When Orpah left the family in disgrace, she fell in with a battalion of soldiers and laid with all 100 in a single night. Goliath was sired by the combined seed of 100 men. Can you imagine the genes that must run in such a family to produce such powerful fighters?
The Israelites and his idea, he just gave the Israelites freedom. He starts singing the song, he starts singing this Kong, and jump cut.
Yeah.
And David
Age skip.
David is now like what I would assume is probably in his mid to late 20s. It does like a bit of a montage of like him just being extraordinarily nice. Like you see there's a storm and there's like an old dude in an alley like shivering.
What's going on in the wonderful world of crackheads this morning? Oh, okay, you're gonna try to pick the whole fridge up.
So so David gives him like his formal robes or whatever, just like showing off that David is being nice. He's being what a good king should be. At the very beginning of his, he's now a man, they're showing him and Jonathan like straight up like sparring.
Whatever audio engineering they did for the sparring was not very good.
No, it really
wasn't. They had some really like hollow funks for all of them, and it's an issue with the wider movie.
So, separate from the music, the audio, like the Foley effects, the sound effects, the ambience to everything, really sucked in this film. I can give a few particular examples with, like, them sparring and they hit their sticks together and it sounds like cardboard tubes. or when Saul is growling and he's grinding his teeth and there's no sound effect associated with it. But on the main, just it was really poor, and that's a really huge problem. I know it's rich coming from me complaining about audio, but it really was just bad. The thing you'll always hear in film circles is that the audience can tolerate bad visuals, but they cannot tolerate bad audio. And it's interesting that they could get such a bad audio team on such a good-looking movie, and such bad writers on such a good-looking movie, etc. Even though Angel Studios calls itself a studio, they do very little in-house work. They are mostly a production company. They bring in all the people to make a movie. And clearly, like, Cunningham brought in the animation team and they were really good, and Angel Studios said, great, we'll get everybody else you need. And so then they get a really mediocre Christian pop artist and a really, really bad SFX team. A part of the movie, the visuals will look incredible and be incredibly researched. Then the writing will suck smelly fucking hairy donkey balls. It's like the group project has so many weak links. It has so many failure points. And so I'm sure there are a lot of people who are very qualified and they worked on this project just because it's where their career took them, and they can't be proud of the finished product because other people that they had no association with dropped the ball, and so it's a bad product despite their hard work. It's terrible.
And then, we come back to him, and David's, playing music in the background. He's kind of like off doing his own thing. He's like, probably thinking about God. We get a flashback to King Saul, like, burning what I assume was like Philistine armor or Amalekite armor.
He's performing a sacrifice.
He's performing a sacrifice.
It would have been a lamb or a goat.
Or
cattle. It would have been a stock animal.
Yeah, there's like a flashback of
Samuel,
like, leaving during this thunderstorm, during this like offering, and King Saul's like, but we got victory and we're all awesome, yada yada. And
Samuel.
It's like, you're not priding God, you're priding yourself. Like, you're patting yourself on the back, you're not patting God, and that's why, like, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. And that's why your kingship is being revoked.
Yeah. David's immediately like, okay, what's going on? He gets explained to him what King Saul is thinking about. He's like, you're the one Samuel, wanted to replace me with. And he throws another spear at him, which then catches David. I'm pretty sure it's meant to believe that, like, God protected him and, like, didn't harm him. Eventually he passes out in, like, the desert. A few of his buddies come up and they're like, oh God, it's David. And you kind of learn that King Saul, if anybody was loyal to David, because David was really well liked. Like, everybody loved and stood with David.
David meets all the fugitives from King Saul, all like the political enemies and whatever that he's made.
Caution to surrender. This I could not do. I took my gun and I vanished.
I think the single biggest divergence in this movie from the source material has to do with what happens after David is cast out. You'll often hear the anecdote of him in the cave, cutting off Saul's garment and everything, but you rarely hear what happens before or afterwards. David becomes a bandit. He gets together, not just like refugees from Saul's regime, though they are, but he gets together the fighters, the rebels. He forms a bandit group, a partisan group. He pillages the land and the property of nobility who are allied to Saul. And once he's finished with that, during which he gets his second wife. The first one is Saul's daughter, but that doesn't pan out after Saul kicks him out. He gets his second wife in a negotiation with one of these nobles, which as well begins a pattern of David struggling to keep his dick in his pants, which ultimately leads to his being forsaken by God, but that's down the line. And after that happens, he joins the Philistines. They see that he is a competitor for the kingship of Judea, so they think, if we can sponsor a claimant to the throne and put him in place, then he will be nicer to us. He will be more cooperative when we try to vassalize his kingdom or extract things from his kingdom. And so they recruit him. He becomes a warlord for the Philistines for a very long time. He conducts raids on people up and down the coast of Canaan, one of which being the Amalekites, which is what in the Bible prompts his non-combatants being kidnapped by them. And he's incredibly successful as this warlord. Conversely to what will happen in the movie, and we'll get there, he is with the Philistine army because they bring him along. They want him to fight this final battle against Saul, and they want to overthrow Saul and install him. He only gets out of that responsibility by what's assumed to be a miracle from God disguised as nature, where the other Philistine generals point out that it's not very safe for them to have him bringing up the rear, that once they get into battle, he could come in support of Saul and turn on the other Philistine troops, and so he's let off. The miracle is grace from God because then he doesn't have to fight other Jews, but it still orchestrates his rising to the throne and his being placed on the throne still by the Philistines. It exists all within this historical framework that I talked about with the David-Goliath story, how this whole sequence, how all of 1 Samuel plays out so much like a historical primary source, correlates so closely with the regional politics of the time. It's this really interesting picture of David as this complex character who is a general and he's a politician and he's a bandit. He's this rogue military leader. And it makes him an even more interesting character when he starts to fall from grace, which happens almost immediately when he gets a second wife, because it illustrates that David is the hero that a lot of these surrounding cultures have, going as far back as Gilgamesh. He's this demigod king of a city, but a lot of his greatness is expressed in terms of his warfare, by being powerful in combat and by being a good general. And it's expressing that David is this kind of hero. He's this kind of regional hero. But that isn't enough. That he may be what the Jewish people need at this moment, but he's not the ideal Jewish hero. He has deep flaws. It's not good enough just to be a powerful man. You have to be a good man. You have to be a man of morals and a man of God. David will be faithful to God, but he struggles to keep God's commandments. And that's a vital part of his character. If you haven't heard this before, it's because it's really not popular. It's not a popular part of David's story. And it's, on the one hand, it's understandable. You know, imagine you're a kid and you're being told in Sunday school or whatever about David, about his great things that he did, about killing Goliath, etc., etc. It'd be a bit of a strange thing to tell a child. And then David did his next heroic thing, which was pillage the countryside, right? You could see how it turns a certain demographic off, and that demographic is unaligned evangelical American Christians, and in the context of this movie, South African Christians, who are of the same vein. You can see how that would be distasteful to them when they're trying to raise their children in a more sheltered, sequestered household that exists separate from a lot of the daily happenings of the modern world. David's warlord tenure is not really compatible with that. It's not compatible with what they want. And so they try to avoid it. Most often they avoid it by just skipping that part of the story, by just saying, oh, he ran away and then Saul died and then he was king. Ooh. In the movie, they realize they can't really just skip that. It has to exist there to some extent. So they go through this whole song and dance, which again is coming on how it happened. That's just riddled with plot holes. It's just really terrible. I can understand why they did it. The movie's trying to be the Christian Encanto. It's trying to be the Christian Coco. So it doesn't really fit with tone they're trying to go for, the level of child appropriate they're going for. I think that idea of appropriate for children is it's flawed. I think that premise for the movie is flawed. The best Bible movie ever, one of the best animated movies ever, is Prince of Egypt. And Prince of Egypt doesn't do that because Prince of Egypt understands how content heavy the Bible is. It understands that these are violent stories where people die. Prince of Egypt has people die on screen. You see the slave master fall from the construction site and you see him splat. You see all of Pharaoh's army washed away and dashed against the rocks because the Bible is not child friendly. And when you try to censor the Tanakh, when you try to water down the Tanakh, you lose so much of it. You lose so much of what makes it interesting. And so it's part of how they annihilate David's character in this film. He cannot be a good leader with faith, but bad at keeping the commandments. He cannot have that lack of self-control that is so defining. He just has to be perfect. It is a butchering of the story. It is a butchering of what makes David interesting.
They have this pep talk situation where, get on your feet, David.
It's the building of the character again. It's the we've been knocked down, but we must get back up speech.
And then he meets Saul. This happens in the movie, happens in the Tanakh. Saul is completely vulnerable. David could just kill him then and there. But he doesn't. He takes a piece of his robe. He goes out to Saul. He says, look, if I'd wanted to kill you, I totally could have. And then we get more Philistines after this point.
Yeah.
Philistine king telling his army and his court, oh, they're weak. They're having this political schism, so we're going to invade. We're going to take them over.
They don't have David anymore. He can't beat us. There's no God on their side anymore. We're going to go fight him.
Right. Yeah, so David has this whole plan. David apparently really clocked when Saul was traumatized by that outpost.
Yeah.
And was having his paranoid visions of the Amalekites.
Yeah.
So David takes everybody to the outpost.
During this big, Philistine war, basically the troops of, I guess, the refugees all like tried blending in with the Philistine armor because they used the armor they found in, you know, that Philistine camp. So they went to try and go pretend to be the Philistines because they wanted to crumble them. Because they didn't want to leave King Saul's like army behind, even though they were all actively hunting them. Like, it was kind of odd.
It was, yeah.
Like,
it's a little
hey, I know you guys just tried hunting and killing me and killing all of my family, but we don't want to strand you guys against the Philistines. Like, not those guys.
They were setting up this plan to kill the Philistine
Philistine,
king
yeah.
in front of the entire army.
In front of the entire army.
While they're formed up.
They were like, no, guys, when we kill the king, they'll just disband and run away. No. They'll just kill you. Well, whatever. That plan gets interrupted because they turn around and they start seeing black smoke from guess who? The Amalekites, kidnapping and burning the outpost. Who could have saw this coming? It's a real whodunit story. So obviously, it goes into this like really emotional scene where like David has to choose between like saving King Saul and, you know, going back to his family. This is the last time we see King Saul's army. We just kind of like assume that they just lost.
Yeah.
And everyone's dead. King Saul is dead. Everyone's dead. Jonathan's dead.
Shoot her before him, but make sure he sees it. Or in this one, kill him, take him to his church, dump him in the pulpit.
And then it cuts to like what I assume is King Saul's like banner, like his big true banner, just like slowly falling. So you're just kind of led to assume that
You got the little Total War.
Yeah, and you just see it
Total
like
War banner
slowly like
shred.
falling down.
Casualties taken.
You see
Unit
Jonathan.
shattered.
So David, you know, goes back to the big, you know, like outpost they were all staying at. It's completely burned down, like to the floor. Like there's ashes everywhere. Nobody else is there that wasn't in Philistine armor. Everybody at the burned down outpost is like, David, we believed in you. What the fuck? The oldest brother again is just like, I trusted you. Why did I trust you?
failed me.
You failed. And he was, and you know, David's starting to kind of lose his shit because he's realizing like, oh God, maybe this is kind of my fault.
Yeah, and then
it totally is.
But his little epiphany only lasts like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because then he figures it out and he's like, but God is on my side.
But God! And it's like,
he loves
okay,
me, and I'm going to go unarmed.
I'm going to go unarmed with no armor, no shoes, by the way. He never gets his sandals back.
He never gets
his shoes back from the dude that robs him. The rest of this movie, he's barefoot.
So David rolls up to the Amalekites. I have thoughts about this. I have a lot of thoughts about this. Beat for beat, what happened? David goes up to the Amalekites. They've got everybody rounded up in like this ravine. And he says, I'm going to save them. And for some reason, nobody else who went with David to infiltrate the Philistines, despite these being their family, their parents and their children. Somebody in like the house burned down. Somebody goes, my kids,
they took my kids.
And then he doesn't do anything.
And then he's like, you can always make more. I'm still fertile till I die.
So David goes up, and he gets his ass kicked.
He tries walking up, like singing his like I will not be afraid, and dude just bam right on the back of the head, knocks him clean out. I was like, thank God. He like wakes back up and starts like singing again.
And then they take him and they like string him up.
Yeah.
And this is where I realized something about this film, that even though it's about an Old Testament story, it's about a story in the Tanakh, even though Jesus has nothing to do with this story, they really want David to be Jesus.
I literally thought about, because they have him stringed up, and I'm only going to turn the camera slightly. He's literally strung up like this. Like he's strung up in almost the exact same formation.
And they're like hitting him. It's like the spear through Jesus' side.
Yeah, like
and he's strung up, and
they were trying to make it look like
he pulls out his Kopesh sword.
He's like sharpening it on a rock, like looking all like nasty and mean, right? And you know, he starts singing I will not be afraid. He starts singing, and then someone else stands up and starts singing, and then someone else stands up and starts singing. Every time somebody stands up, they get like knocked unconscious. So more of them start standing up. Bro, they just straight up knock a little kid unconscious.
They do.
They just knock like 2 kids on their ass. It's hilarious. No,
they're like some of the only on top of their game people in this movie.
Dude, they were standing on business. Again, they were the evil ones of this movie, and they were standing on business. One of them straight up says like when David is like strung up and he's giving like his big speech, he's like, I see like mighty warriors, and dude hits David and he just goes, I see slaves.
I see slaves.
It's just.
It's time for a chicken reveal. Oh, there's one. David 2025 has a real problem with its villains. The first ones you meet, of course, are the Philistines. And the Philistines in general look cool. They look fine. They look neat. They just have their visual design and they're all right. They're in their niche. But then you see their king. I don't know whose job it was to design the king or whose input got him designed the way he was. I think they should be blacklisted from the industry. The Philistine king is queer-coded like an 80s villain. It's insane. He's in like drag. He's in all this gaudy makeup. His horse is this dressed up show horse that's all elaborate. And he's like super short and he's just this whelp and he like whines at people. And he's got these huge ass lips that are like Botoxed. It's so weird. It's so weird. I don't know what drove them to do something like that, but it's really strange and uncomfortable. And then there are the Amalekites. In another movie, I would forgive what they're doing with the Amalekites because I think in any other movie, I think it would be nitpicking and it would be a bit of a reach. But I am so far convinced that this was intentional. They're considered like the ultimate enemies of the Jewish people. So the myth has it, they attacked the Jewish people at the back of their column where all the old and sick were as they were leaving Egypt. So they were opportunists and they were assholes. The Amalekites exit the story of the Bible pretty fast, and now they're just used as a euphemism for an extreme anti-Semite. Like Haman in the Book of Esther is called an Amalekite. He's not. Some rabbis think he is descended from the Amalekites, but it's unlikely he was. He's called an Amalekite because he really hated the Jews. The Amalekites don't exist anymore as a people, but we do have archaeological evidence of them, and we can pretty reasonably assess that they were Arab. And I think this movie knows that because they're the only people who ride camels in the whole movie. Other than that, their visual design is like Hollywood cannibal. It is bone tomahawk shit. They're covered in crow feathers. They're wearing ox skulls. They have like the Oliphant contraptions on top of their camels. Again, in any other movie, I'd be like, okay, they wanted a cool looking villain because they look badass. They look super cool. They wanted a cool looking villain, so they just like landed upon this and it was coincidence. I think that would be reasonable in any other scenario. But I do not trust Phil Cunningham or anybody at Angel Studios. It feels weird. It feels targeted, which makes it even stranger that the Amalekites are the only competent people in this movie who can do anything. The absolute mockery this movie makes of its own villain is insane, and I think it's like several decades too late. They should have considered making this in like the wake of 9/11, when gay jokes were still funny.
You'd obviously be gay if you're gonna ask another man to suck your...
And it was okay to hate brown people.
We're almost done with the movie. We've got like 5 minutes left.
The army of faux Philistines shows up, finally.
Yeah, the Philistines... Yeah.
Took them long enough to save their children.
Yeah.
And they show up, and of course they rout the Amalekites, because there are like 12 Amalekites.
There's like 12 of them, and there's like 40 armed soldiers versus like 13 Amalekites.
Right.
So they like, you know, they handle them pretty well. David goes unconscious again. I guess that's just kind of the crucifix of, hey, we don't know how to transition to the next scene, we're just knocking David out. We wake up in David's house. David's like, what happened? They give him the rundown. Everyone's back at like his old family home. Then the little sister comes down and is like, hey, people want to see you. He gets up onto his roof, and there's like far more people than they rescued. There's like probably close to like 1,000 people.
Kingdom of Israel.
The entire kingdom is there. Under King Saul's rule or not, everybody is there. But he gets up and he sees everybody, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's David!" Whoa! They're just gushing and gushing, and I don't.
And then they put the robe on him, and he cuts off the little piece of the robe because it's
he's like the
symbolic or whatever.
Yeah. And he's like, "The kingdom is with you again."
You know, for most of the movie, I was like, I could give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're not trying to do this.
I'm gonna give them.
They want David to be Jesus.
Yeah.
And this is a pattern. David is a very popular Old Testament figure among Christians. What a lot of Christians fail to understand is that David is meant to be this complex character. David, at the end of the day, as a person, is no different than Saul. Power corrupts, and David gets corrupted. He forgives on his deathbed, and in a lot of ways he's still an aspirational figure because you see him do something wrong, and you see him make up for it.
Yeah.
And so you still aspire to David, but it's not because he's perfect, and in this movie he's just kind of perfect. He
doesn't do anything wrong.
He doesn't do anything wrong. And if he does do something wrong or stupid, God saves him.
If I do everything right, it's me and God, but if anything wrong happens, it's God's will.
Right.
Like, he never really takes any accountability for doing anything wrong. Like, The whole, like, getting their entire family kidnapped by Amalekites, that is his fault. He doesn't even, like, say sorry or say he didn't plan on it. He's literally just like, I know what I must do. It's God's will. Yeah, sorry, guys. I got, like, our entire population, like, completely kidnapped. My bad, guys. He didn't even say that. He's just like...
You know, they conveniently omit a lot of the bad things David does, and they cut off the movie conveniently at the part where he becomes king. Because what do you know? He starts being a complex figure corrupted by power when he becomes king. He, the big thing he does, the big bad thing he does, he sees a woman, he really wants to have her in, like, his harem. He sends her husband, the Hittite, into war in the vanguard, like the forlorn hope, to get him killed.
Yeah.
So he dies. In Judaism, you can remarry after your spouse dies or you're divorced. So he brings her into his court. That's a gross and slimy and wicked thing to do.
Yeah,
and the prophet tells him as much. It is this general kind of Christian theme that they want to put David on a pedestal. And so it's this awkward kind of ignored thing.
So we're kind of just going to ignore all the bad things
that he gets somebody killed to do legal adultery.
Yeah.
And so he's put up as this figure. It feels like Angel Productions, to their credit, did make some attempt to make it more universal.
Yeah.
They don't bring up the Messiah. They don't have any, apart from him getting strung up, they don't have any super over references
like
to Jesus.
Christian terms,
right.
Yeah.
And they keep it mostly Jewish aesthetically. But I think what they failed to understand is that the story just is something fundamentally different in Judaism.
Yeah.
That it is not this aspirational image of somebody who has...
telling of a young boy who didn't want to be king, doing great things and then becoming king.
Right.
Like, it's not that story.
Yeah, it's not about somebody who has their blind faith and God pulls through for them. It's about somebody who was chosen because they were the person that Judea needed. They were the person that the Jews needed in that time.
Yeah.
And they were a flawed person. They were a generally good person, but they were a flawed person.
This is the end, my only friend.
I'm going to commit YouTube sin. I'm going to YouTube hell for this because in order to understand David, we have to go back in time. In 2016, somebody on 4chan's politics board invented the word goy slop. It's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory that Jews invented shitty fast food to keep the goyim docile. To which I say, we were way ahead of you there. We got you. Grapefruits, anything grapefruit flavored, it's over. The microchip is already in your penis. And it's a shame goy slop started that way because it's a very funny word. So I'm reclaiming it, like the N-word. Goy slop is basically the N-word. David's a movie that butchers the Hebrew Bible. It removes all value and nuance and stakes to be shitty type Christian. The directors are shitty Christian directors. The production studio is the shitty Christian production studio. It's the shitty Christian production studio. David isn't just goy or triple goy. It's goy slop. It's an shitifying of this incredible document to forward an unsubstantiated, unsophisticated goy as hell strain of Christianity. And Angel, as the avatar of Christian anti-Hollywood cinema, is the avatar of goy slop. It is the Babylon of goy slop. Angel is trying to make the global public docile and uncritical, a docile and uncritical strain of religious. There isn't a Jewish scheme of goy slop. The goys are inventing their own slop. And, you know, when I say goy, right, I don't mean it literally. Definitionally, it is all the nations, the non-Jews. But it sounds way too much like a slur. It's much funnier when I'm actually insulting someone. And it's, by default, it's like being the opposite of Jewish values. And not like the niche stuff, like wearing wool and linen together, like just the basic shit, being nice and charitable, which Angel isn't. But, you know, shitty Christians being nothing like Christ, fork found in kitchen. In my mind, intellectualism is floor stakes for being Jewish. Not like pipe-smoking academic, but thinking deeply and critically about your religion, especially. And Angel's the opposite. What it makes is stupid juice. It's the moron potion. I don't like Angel Studios.
Wake the fuck up, samurai.
Fuck Angel Studios. That's the end. Good night.